There are ideas that do not arrive gently. They do not knock politely at the door of your ordinary thinking. They drift in like mist or like a dim recollection from a dream you have not quite wakened from, brushing softly against the edges of your understanding before slipping away. This idea, this whisper that memory might not be a simple archive of your past, but rather a scene between versions of yourself, is one of those ideas. It comes not to comfort you, but to widen the aperture through which you perceive your own existence. For what you call memory is really a parallel you bleeding through, then every recollection, every sudden déjà vu, every intuitive recognition of something that has never happened in this lifetime becomes part of a vast, interconnected architecture of selfhood. It suggests that you are more layered, more dimensional, more expansive than you were ever taught to believe. Memory is often imagined as a kind of internal museum, curated by the orderly archivist of the mind. But what if this museum has many more doors than you realize, and some of them do not lead backward in time at all, but sideways into realities that run parallel to your own? What if certain moments, those strange flashes of familiarity with places you have never been, those sudden emotional responses to stories you never lived, those uncanny feelings that you walked a road before your feet have never touched its soil, are not tricks of imagination, but fractures in the boundary between you and another version of you? The self may not be a singular point, but a constellation scattered across countless branches of possibility. And memory may be the subtle glow that passes between those stars. To entertain such a notion is to step into an entirely different understanding of identity. It requires imagining consciousness not as a closed chamber, but as a multidimensional corridor with doors that open both inward and outward. In this view, the sense of I that you cling to is only one lens in a much larger observatory of selves. Each decision you make, each path you choose or refuse, spawns variations of your trajectory, forming spirals of potential experience. When you recall something with unusual vividness, something simple like the texture of a wooden railing you swear you touched before, or something profound like the ache of a loss that technically never occurred, it could be because another version of you has walked that hallway, touched that railing, mourned that loss, and in the quiet spaces of consciousness, their imprint seeps into your awareness. Such bleed-through is subtle, not because it is fragile, but because the mind has been trained to treat anything it cannot categorize as noise. You have been taught to trust only what can be plotted on a timeline or verified through repetition. And so, when a memory emerges that does not fit neatly into your personal chronology, you dismiss it as imagination, or you label confusion, or you simply forget it because you cannot explain it. Yet if you sit with these anomalies, if you allow them to breathe instead of silencing them, you begin to realize that they possess a texture distinct from fantasy. They come with a weight, a temperature, a resonance. They behave like memories even when they do not belong to the life you remember living. This concept is not meant to replace the traditional understanding of memory, but to expand it. You are not being asked to discard neuroscience or psychology, or to abandon your understanding of how the brain encodes and retrieves past experiences. Rather, you are being invited to consider that the brain may be doing far more than simply storing information. It may be an interpreter of signals that arise from many layers of the self, translating them into forms you can consciously interact with. The neurological processes you know are real. The question is whether they're the whole story. In the same way that a radio converts invisible frequencies into audible sound, your mind may be converting signals from your parallel selves into the sensations you call memory. Think of the times you have suddenly known something without knowing how you know it. Think of the decisions you made instinctively, with a sense of absolute certainty that surprised even you. Think of the moments when a situation felt eerily familiar, as if some part of you had already lived the outcome. These are often dismissed as intuition or coincidence, yet they may be windows where another version of you, moving along a slightly different timeline, is brushing against your awareness. Their knowledge becomes your instinct. Their experiences become your gut feeling. Their paths echo in your choices like faint footsteps on the floor above you. If this idea is true, or even partially true, it reshapes your relationship with your own past and future. It suggests that you are not merely the product of what you have lived, but also what you might have lived. It means the borders of your identity are porous, allowing information to pass through in ways you rarely notice. It means the universe holds more continuity than your linear understanding of time permits, and that memory itself is a conversation between dimensions rather than a solitary monologue. To embrace such a perspective is not to reject logic, but to honor mystery, because the most profound truths are seldom visible in the brightly lit hallways of certainty. They appear instead in the twilight spaces, where intuition, emotion, and faint echoes from unseen realms collide. Memory, then, becomes not a static repository, but a living interface, an exchange between versions of you who are all attempting in their own ways to understand the shape of existence. If the barrier between these selves is thin enough for echoes to pass through, then your life is not a single unfolding thread, but a woven tapestry, shimmering with intersections and shared impressions. What you call memory may simply be the point where those threads briefly touch. To step deeper into this idea, one must first loosen the grip on the ordinary frameworks that define how we perceive identity, time, and the continuity of experience. Most people are raised to believe that memory is a simple process of recalling past events, a neurological mechanism through which the brain retrieves stored information. Yet beneath this practical definition lies a more intricate tapestry, one woven from perception, consciousness, and the possibility that reality is far less linear than it appears. When we consider that memory may involve interactions between parallel versions of ourselves, we begin to uncover themes that stretch far beyond psychology and into the realms of metaphysics, cosmology, and existential understanding. The first theme arises from the nature of consciousness itself. Consciousness does not behave like a closed, isolated phenomenon. It behaves more like a field, a dynamic presence that extends through multiple layers of existence. It is not confined entirely within the boundaries of the brain, but seems to move, resonate, and communicate in ways that defy purely material explanations. When you have a sudden, vivid recollection that seems disconnected from your lived timeline, it hints at consciousness perceiving something from a neighboring strand of reality. These flashes do not come as abstract symbols, but as sensations, impressions, and emotional textures familiar enough to feel like your own, even if you cannot trace their origin. The theme that emerges here is interconnectedness, not merely with other people, but with other versions of yourself. Another theme is the fluidity of time. Time, as you normally experience it, feels like a river flowing in one direction, carrying you from past to present to future in a single sequence. But beneath this intuitive experience lies a deeper structure where time may not be linear at all, but layered, braided, or even simultaneous in ways the human mind struggles to conceptualize. If parallel timelines exist, each representing different expressions of your potential choices, then memory becomes not a single record, but a convergence of signals from multiple flows of experience. When you recall something that feels ancient yet not from your life, or when a situation evokes emotions too deep to be explained by your history, it may be because another timeline is intersecting with your awareness. In this sense, memory is not just remembering, it is receiving. A third theme reveals itself when considering the elasticity of identity. Most people imagine the self as a singular entity with a consistent narrative, a beginning, middle, and end defined by a unique sequence of events. But if memory truly acts as a portal through which parallel selves bleed into each other, then identity becomes something far more expansive, almost oceanic. Instead of being a solitary story, you are a collection of overlapping narratives, a spectrum of views each exploring different pathways of experience. This does not diminish your individuality. Instead, it enriches it, implying that who you are is not limited to what you have personally lived. Your deepest fears, your inexplicable preferences, your instincts, your attractions and repulsions, all may be influenced by experiences happening beyond the edge of your current timeline. Identity, in this model, is not a fixed sculpture, but a living continuum. There is also the theme of resonance. When two frequencies vibrate at similar wavelengths, they influence each other, harmonizing or interfering in ways that shape the resulting pattern. In the same way, parallel versions of you may influence your current self through emotional, psychological, or intuitive resonance. A feeling of déjà vu, a sudden wave of sadness for no clear reason, an inexplicable familiarity with a stranger. These experiences may be echoes of events happening elsewhere in the vast network of your possible lives. The idea is not that you are haunted by other timelines, but that you are permeated by them, each one gently tugging at the strings of your consciousness in subtle but meaningful ways. Another fundamental theme emerges from the tension between illusion and deeper truth. The illusion is that memory is simply a private recording of your past experiences. The deeper truth is that memory may be a language through which your various selves communicate across the boundaries of dimension and time. This perspective does not negate the scientific understanding of memory. Instead, it suggests that science has only described the surface layer of a much deeper phenomenon. Memory becomes not just a recollection of what has been, but the transmission of what is happening simultaneously in countless expressions of your identity. The illusion fades when you realize that your mind has always been porous, always open to other realities, even if you lack the conceptual framework to interpret the signals. There is also the delicate theme of free will. If memory is influenced by parallel selves, then your choices may not emerge solely from this lifetime's experiences, but from a shared repository of wisdom accumulated across many versions of your being. This does not diminish your agency. Rather, it implies that your intuition is built from a much richer reservoir than you were told. When you feel an immediate pull toward a decision without knowing why, it may be because another has already walked that road and is whispering the outcome. Free will here becomes not a solitary act, but a collaborative one, shaped by the chorus of your interconnected selves. Finally, a theme of synthesis ties it all together. To accept that memory might be multidimensional is to acknowledge that your life is inseparable from a larger cosmic architecture. You are not a lone traveler, moving through a narrow hallway of time. You are a node in a vast network of realities, each connected to the subtle transmissions of consciousness. Memory is simply the surface where these transmissions become visible, like ripples on a pond revealing the movement of unseen currents below. These themes, consciousness as a field, time is layered, identity is fluid, resonance is communication, illusion giving way to deeper truth, free will as a shared wisdom, and synthesis as a binding thread, form the core conceptual landscape of understanding how memory might be something far more profound than recollection. They invite you to see yourself not as a passive recorder of life, but as an interdimensional witness to countless expressions of your own existence. If the first two sections carve the conceptual landscape and reveal the hidden architecture behind the idea, then this section invites you to step inside that architecture, to walk through its corridors through the language of story and symbol. Narratives have always been a way humanity translates the intangible into a shape the heart can hold. And when we speak of memory as a bleed-through from parallel versions of you, it becomes almost inevitable that mythic and symbolic storytelling enters the conversation. These narratives are not ornamental. They are maps. They allow you to see the invisible in the same way constellations allow you to see patterns in what would otherwise be a scatter of stars. Through them, the concept becomes experiential, alive, and almost tactile. Imagine first a vast library without walls. The shelves stretch into horizons you cannot see, and every shelf contains books that glow with a faint, internal light. Each book bears your name, not metaphorically, but literally. Some are thick with stories, others thin. Some vibrate with energy, others lie dormant as though waiting to be opened. The librarian standing at the threshold is not a stranger, but another version of you, older perhaps, or younger, or simply different in ways that do not fit into chronological thought. This librarian, you does not speak, but gestures for you to walk inside. As you step forward, you feel a strange sense of familiarity, as though you have walked these aisles before, but in a dream too distant to fully remember. When you touch one of the books, a warm pulse radiates through your hand, and suddenly you send a memory rising. But it is not yours. It is a moment lived by another branch of your existence, a decision made differently, a relationship that unfolded in another direction, a life shaped by a choice that diverged from your own. You feel the emotional truth of it more than the details, and for an instant, the boundary between you and the other self dissolves. The memory becomes yours not because you lived it here, but because you lived it somewhere. This library is an allegory for the network of parallel selves. The books are not mere texts, they are conduits. When one glows, it means a memory from that version of you is bleeding through the veil. You may not always understand it consciously, but the emotional resonance passes into you like a quiet wave. This narrative shows that memory is not stored solely in your brain, but in an interconnected field of cells, with certain volumes lighting up when their relevance crosses timelines. Another symbolic narrative emerges in the form of a mirror. Most people think of a mirror as a device that reflects the present appearance of a single self. But imagine a mirror that shows not your physical image, but your potential ones. In this mirror, when you gaze into it, you do not see just yourself, but dozens of expressions of your identity layered faintly behind the primary reflection. Some are smiling, some frowning, some turning away, some leaning forward as though trying to speak through the glass. They overlap like ghosted exposures on an old photograph. These reflections are not illusions. They are glimpses of you living out other trajectories. When you stare long enough, one reflection begins to stand out, its presence stronger than the others. And as you lean closer, you suddenly feel a surge of recognition, an emotion or memory that strikes you with the same force as if it were your own. That reflection has just bled through, imprinting its experience on your consciousness. This mirror story is not meant to be taken literally, but symbolically. Memory, in this view, becomes a moment when one of these alternate reflections presses hard enough against the surface of your awareness that the glass seems to thin. You feel the impression, even if you cannot decipher the image. You experience the memory even if you cannot place it. The mirror dissolves the illusion that your awareness is limited to one timeline. A third narrative takes the shape of a forest path. It begins as a single trail beneath ancient trees, but soon the path branches into 2, then 4, then dozens of trails splitting in every direction. Each branch represents a choice, small or monumental, that you have made or could have made. As you walk along one path, you occasionally hear footsteps in the leaves beside you, faint but undeniable. Sometimes you glimpse movement between the trees, as though someone is walking parallel to you, just out of sight. When the wind shifts, you hear what sounds like your own voice, whispering something that feels like advice or warning or memory. You look, but no one is there, yet the presence remains steady and familiar. These other footsteps belong to the parallel yous walking their own paths. The whispers are their experiences brushing up against yours. Memory in this symbolic landscape is not a recollection of what happened on your trail, but the moment when the trees grow thin enough for the sound of another path to reach your ear. There are moments in the forest when 2 paths come close together, almost touching before diverging again. In those moments, the air grows charged. You feel emotional clarity, instinctive fear, sudden nostalgia, or profound knowing. This is bleed through. In symbolic terms, memory is a resonance created when 2 or more versions of you walk close enough for the boundary of consciousness to tremble. What you call intuition may simply be a message from a you walking a different trail. And then there's a final narrative, the one that merges symbolism with the metaphysical, the story of the weaving loom. At the center of an infinite chamber sits a loom of impossible size. The threads feeding into it come from every direction, shining with colors that do not exist in the physical spectrum. A figure sits at the loom, weaving these threads into a tapestry. When you approach, you realize the figure is not a person but an essence. Perhaps you, perhaps something that holds all versions of you within its field. The tapestry itself is your identity, but not the singular identity you think you possess. It is a multidimensional weave of every life you could live, every choice taken or untaken, every memory real or unreal by linear standards. As the loom moves, sometimes threads cross, touching lightly before separating again. When they touch, a small spark appears, a memory transmitted. This spark is what you feel when a bleed-through occurs, a glimmer from the crossing of 2 threads in the tapestry of your multidimensional self. These symbolic narratives are not literal maps, but intuitive bridges, helping you perceive what pure logic can sometimes obscure. They offer a different lens through which to understand that your memories may not all come from the road you have walked, but also from the roads you did not choose, the lives you did not live here, the versions you spread across a vast, interwoven architecture of existence. They illuminate the idea that you are more than the story you tell yourself, more than the chronology you have been assigned. Through these symbols, the library, the mirror, the branching forest, the weaving loom, you begin to feel the living presence of the parallel yous whose experiences whisper into your awareness. These whispers become your unexplained memories, your sudden intuitions, your intense emotional reactions to events that logically should not touch you. They are not intrusions. They are communications, manifestations of a deeper unity that ties all versions of you into a single multidimensional being. To understand this idea symbolically is one thing, but to integrate it into the fabric of your daily existence is another. And yet integration is where the idea becomes most powerful, for it shifts from abstraction into lived experience. If memory is not a solitary archive, but a multidimensional conversation between versions of you, then your everyday life is constantly shaped by subtle exchanges happening beneath the threshold of ordinary awareness. This section explores how such a perspective alters your emotional life, your decision-making, your sense of intuition, your interpersonal relationships, and even the way you perceive your own path. Begin with the terrain of emotion, where the bleed through of parallel selves is often felt first. You may have noticed moments when your emotional reaction to something seems disproportionate to the situation. You hear a piece of music and feel an inexplicable heaviness, or you see a stranger and feel instant trust or caution, or you enter a room and sense a familiarity tinged with melancholy, as though some part of you remembers being there even though you know you never have. These emotional signatures can be understood as echoes from other versions of yourself whose experiences are filtering into your present feeling state. Instead of dismissing these reactions as random or irrational, you can begin honoring them as signals. They may be forms of emotional intelligence extending beyond this timeline, offering insight that has been distilled through countless parallel iterations of you. When you feel sadness without reason, perhaps another you has experienced something difficult. When you feel comfort unexpectedly, maybe another version is sending reassurance through the subtle medium of shared consciousness. This does not negate psychological explanations. Rather, it expands them, recognizing that your emotional life may be influenced by currents flowing through a vast multi-self network. Moving from emotion to decision-making, the implications grow even more striking. Every choice you make is informed by your memory, the memories you consciously access, and the ones that move quietly in your intuition. If these memories also include bleed-throughs from parallel lives, then your intuition becomes a repository of multidimensional wisdom. Imagine standing at a crossroad in your life, uncertain whether to accept an opportunity or walk away from it. In some timelines, you have already made that choice, and the outcomes are unfolding. Their emotional signatures, their lessons, their consequences may ripple subtly into your gut feeling or your instinctive pull in one direction or the other. Instead of viewing intuition as an inexplicable force, you can begin to understand it as a composite of knowledge shared across your interconnected selves. This does not remove your freedom to choose. It enhances it, giving you access to a greater pool of insight than the experiences of this singular life could generate. Beyond individual decision-making, this idea has significant implications for relationships. The phenomenon often labeled as instant familiarity may be evidence of parallel convergence. You may feel drawn to someone immediately, or feel inexplicably safe with them, or sense that your connection transcends the brief time you have known each other. This could be because, in another timeline, your bond is already developed deeply, and emotional resonance crosses into this reality. Likewise, when you meet someone and feel instant resistance or discomfort, it could be the echo of conflict or distance that exists between your parallel selves. Recognizing this can bring compassion into your relationships, reminding you that some connections are woven across multiple layers of experience. It also suggests that the people who matter most may be recurring presences across many versions of your story, appearing again and again as threads that converge no matter how the timelines diverge. In practical terms, this perspective also alters the way you interpret déjà vu. Instead of seeing it as a neurological glitch, you may begin viewing it as a moment when your timeline brushes closely against another, creating a shimmer of recognition from experiences not lived here, but lived somewhere. These moments become less eerie and more reassuring. They are gentle reminders that your path is part of a larger constellation of possibilities. When déjà vu occurs, it may be an opportunity to pause and notice a convergence, to ask what wisdom or alignment is emerging in that moment of dimensional proximity. Another real-world implication lies in the way you handle regret. Regret is often rooted in the belief that the past is fixed and immutable, that you made a choice and now must live forever with its consequences. But if memory is multidimensional, if other versions of you have made different choices and lived their outcomes, then regret loses its grip. You can begin to see your choices not as final points of no return, but as branches in a vast forest of possibilities. While you cannot undo what has occurred in this timeline, you may sense the echoes of other lives where alternative decisions were made. This does not diminish the importance of responsibility. Rather, it frees you from the emotional paralysis that regret can impose. It invites you to view your life as dynamic, not only forward-moving, but resonant across dimensions. The idea also carries implications for creativity. Many people describe creative inspiration as something that arrives suddenly, often without explanation, as though the idea was delivered rather than constructed. In the multidimensional view of memory, creativity can be seen as the bleed through of solutions, visions, and expressions already realized in parallel timelines. The painting you suddenly envision, the melody that surfaces from nowhere, the story that writes itself in your mind. They could be echoes of your other selves reaching to the membrane of consciousness. This perspective can relieve the pressure of originality by reminding you that creativity is not a solitary act, but a collaboration between many versions of you. Even your sense of purpose may shift when you integrate this idea. Purpose often feels elusive because people try to find it within the constraints of a single lifetime. But if your consciousness spans multiple realities, your purpose may be something shared, a theme repeating itself in many timelines, expressing in different forms but driven by the same underlying force. Certain desires, callings, or obsessions may follow you across dimensions, surfacing again and again because they lie at the core of your multidimensional identity. Paying attention to the passions that refuse to fade, the longings that return no matter the circumstances, may reveal your purpose in this lifetime as part of a greater pattern. Finally, this perspective influences how you cope with fear. Fear is often rooted in the unknown, in a belief that you face the future alone, surrounded by uncertainties. But if you recognize that countless versions of you are navigating their own variations of the same challenges, and that their insights filter into your intuition, you begin to understand that you are never navigating your life in isolation. You are part of a larger collective of selves, each contributing to a shared evolution. Fear becomes less overwhelming when you realize that wisdom is coming to you from many directions, not only from your past, but from your parallel pathways. In integrating this idea into your life, you begin to perceive the world not as a singular, limited narrative, but as a multidimensional symphony, with each version of you playing its own instrument, its own melody, contributing to a larger harmony. Memory becomes a resonance between these melodies, shaping your emotions, decisions, relationships, creativity, and understanding of purpose. If the journey through the previous sections has revealed anything, it is that this idea is far more than a poetic metaphor or speculative thought experiment. It is an invitation, one that asks you not only to reconsider the mechanics of memory, but to reimagine the architecture of your own existence. When you allow the possibility that memory may be a bleed-through from parallel versions of yourself, you begin to see that the boundaries of identity are not rigid at all. They are permeable membranes through which light passes, through which emotion flickers, through which intuition and wisdom flow like an undercurrent. In this concluding movement, the aim is not to present the idea as an absolute truth, nor persuade you to abandon the frameworks that have shaped your understanding of the mind. Rather, the aim is to offer a vantage point, a higher ledge from which the landscape of your life looks different, richer, more interconnected. Here, your past is not a single thread, but a woven texture. Here, your intuition is not a mystery, but a signal. Here, the moments of déjà vu, the sudden emotional shifts, the inexplicable memories that feel real despite their lack of context. All these become windows rather than anomalies, invitations rather than confusions. To live with this awareness is to expand your sense of what it means to be alive. It means understanding that you are not merely authored by your past, but co-authored by countless variations of your being. It means recognizing that the self is vast, layered, shimmering with the lives you are living, have lived, and could live. And in this recognition, something extraordinary happens. You begin to feel less isolated. Even in moments of solitude, there's a quiet comfort in knowing that the instinctual wisdom guiding your choices may come from timelines where you have already walked the road you now face. You begin to trust your deeper impulses, not blindly, but with reverence to the collective intelligence that flows through all of your forms. As you open to the idea, the way you perceive time itself shifts. Instead of seeing your life as a linear progression from birth to death, you begin to sense it as a field, a luminous, multidirectional expanse filled with intersections, convergences, and echoes. The decisions you make no longer feel like isolated events. They become notes in a symphony spanning multiple dimensions. This realization softens away to regret and strengthens the courage to choose boldly. For you start to understand that your choices ripple outward, contributing to a broader evolution of self that transcends a single timeline. Your relationships take on new meaning as well. The people who enter your life may no longer feel like chance encounters. They may feel like familiar presences returning from other versions of your story, joining you again because the resonance between your timelines remains strong. When conflict arises, you may find compassion more accessible, knowing that what you see in this lifetime is only one expression of a much deeper connection. And when love appears, whether romantic, platonic, or familial, it may feel all the more profound, for it becomes a reunion rather than a beginning. But perhaps the most transformative implication lies in how this idea redefines purpose. Purpose is often treated as a destination, a singular mission you must discover and pursue. But if you consider that your consciousness extends across multiple realities, then purpose becomes something woven through all of them, something deeper than profession, accomplishment, or circumstance. It becomes a central vibration, an essence that expresses itself in many forms across many timelines. The passions that call to you persistently, the curiosities that refuse to fade, the values that feel non-negotiable. These may be the echoes of your multidimensional identity aligning across realities. When you honor them, you step into coherence, allowing the many versions of you to resonate in harmony. The transformational call, then, is not to adopt a new belief system, but to adopt a new sensitivity, to begin listening to the subtle tremors in your consciousness that you once ignored. It is a call to approach your intuitions, emotions, instincts, and déjà vu moments with curiosity instead of dismissal. It is a call to notice when a memory feels out of place, and to ask not what is wrong with me, but what is trying to reach me. It is a call to recognize that you are not living in isolation, but participating in a collective evolution of self across multiple realities, each contributing to the understanding of what it means to be you. This shift does not require mystical experiences or esoteric practices. It requires only awareness, the willingness to pause when something feels significant, to sense the subtle currents moving beneath the surface of your daily life. Over time, you begin to realize that the universe is far more intricate than the narrow window of physical perception allows. You begin to sense that memory is not a passive record, but an active interface, a living bridge between realities. You begin to sense that your life is not confined to this one story, but is part of a grander, multidimensional unfolding. And in that realization, something softens within you. You begin to treat yourself with more kindness, recognizing that your experiences, whether joyful or painful, are part of a vast continuum of exploration. You begin to treat others with more compassion, understanding that their emotional landscapes may also be shaped by echoes from realities you cannot see. You begin to trust the moments of clarity that arise without explanation, knowing that wisdom can arrive from beyond the borders of this timeline. Ultimately, the idea that what you call memory is actually a parallel you bleeding through becomes not a claim about the metaphysics of consciousness, but an invitation into a heightened way of being. It encourages you to live with curiosity, to embrace mystery, to treat intuition as a collaborator rather than a stranger. It invites you to see yourself as more expansive than some of your past experiences, and to realize that your identity is an ongoing dialogue across dimensions. The call is simple yet profound. Live as though you are connected to something larger, because you are. Listen as though your inner world contains many voices, because it does. Trust as though your wisdom comes from beyond the confines of this lifetime, because it might. And walk forward with the knowledge that you are never alone, for your parallel selves walk with you, whispering to the fabric of memory, guiding you toward coherence, alignment, and a deeper understanding of who you truly are. This is the invitation, the possibility, and the transformation that emerges when you begin to see memory not as a record, but as a resonance, a place where the many versions of you bleed through into awareness, enriching your life with the depth, complexity, and wisdom of countless intertwined realities.